So I would like to ask you this. How do you see your role in countering Western hegemony and influence? And in particular, although you condemned the genocide, what we in many areas of the world felt that China did not assert itself in stopping the genocide. So can you please clarify what the thinking was behind your somewhat muted role in the Gaza genocide? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mademoiselle. First of all, you mentioned Professor Joseph Nye. He's well known in China. I have high respect for you for being educated at Harvard. And China does not want to be a superpower, because superpower as a term is a negative term, derogatory term in the Chinese language. We want to be a superpopulation. And I coined that term, superpopulation, for a country with more than 1 billion people. In the world of today, only 2 countries qualify, China and India. But we want to be superpopulations, but not superpowers. A superpower, for example, is very abrasive, very sharp elbows, for example, pushes you around and sometimes hold a gun at your head. This is something China will never do. Now, the other thing is that if you compare China versus the United States, I've been said in the darkest hour of the tariff war that China, that we don't care, we don't care, we don't care. I said that 3 times on public television. Why? Because, China has been here for 5,000 years, if not even longer. And for most of the time, there is no United States. Really, I don't think Mr. Ruddy would disagree with me. Next year, the United States will celebrate the 250 years of the founding of the United States of America. But over the thousands of years, we've met with all kinds of disasters, calamities, rivals, enemies, you name it. I will not go into details. We met with the Huns, Attila the Hun, went west, etc., after being defeated by the Chinese. We met with the Turks, for example. They left and went west, for example. I do not want to go into details. We dealt with the Mongols, we dealt with the Manchus, you name it. But one thing is very unique for the Chinese nation. The Chinese civilization has never been destroyed, has never been interrupted. That means when we look at the United States, we have a historical perspective. I can stretch time, boom, into 5,000 years. And then I can stretch time into the future for another 5,000 years. And I'm pretty sure by the end of the coming 5,000 years, the Chinese civilization will still stand on the global stage. Whether the United States will be there 5,000 years later, I hope they will. But, you really need to do a lot of history to see how deeper your roots are to be able to project, the length of your survivability. That's number one. Number two is that in China, we have a saying, don't do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you. Now, let me be very quick. In the heat of the Arrow battle, immediately after the India lost, Prime Minister Modi threatened to deny water to Pakistan. And I said publicly on Indian television, I said to deny water to the people in the downstream in times of peace will be a crime against humanity. In times of war, it will be a war crime. So I urged the Indian government not to do that. And I said, don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. The host, wonderful lady, said, are you threatening India? And I said, no, this is not a threat. This is 2,500-year-old philosophical truth that we keep practicing in China. Don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto us. The same way, I would tell the Americans and President Trump and his team, don't do unto China what you don't want China to do unto you. If you want to chokehold China in terms of the semiconductor, China will choke you in terms of the rare earth. And Trump and Pakistan are talking about rare earth. But Trump himself doesn't know, but Secretary of State Rubio knows. Having rare earth is just one step in the right direction. Whether you will be able to extract them, to process them, to refine it to what we say 6 nines, meaning 9.99999 degree. That is the trick. And only China has that. So China has never had any problem exporting rare earth to the United States before. But if you want to chokehold China, China will choke you back. And that really makes the United States, in terms of defense industry, very much losing its sanity because it's being choked. I mention this again. If calm descends between China and the United States, why should the United States try to chokehold China in terms of the semiconductor? Let me tell you, in a matter of, this is my judgment, 3 to 5 years, China will no longer need to import any single dollar of chips made abroad, including from China's Taiwan province. That means China will achieve complete self-reliance in semiconductor chips. And once China achieves that, There will be a revolution in terms of chips pricing. Price will drop like a rocket, like many other things that China will achieve self-independence. That means, again, China will never fire the first shot at anyone, but China will never allow you to fire the second shot at China. That is the resilience of China. That is the wisdom of China, and also the historical depth, and by which you can really project what will be the future. So I keep thinking about the world in terms of the coming 5,000 years. I keep thinking about the United States in 7025. Where is the United States by 7025? I hope Mr. Rundy and his people will think about that. I keep thinking about China in 7025. Let me tell you my real truth. I believe China will be standing there by 7025. And I hope China-Pakistani friendship will also survive to 7025 and beyond. Thank you.
When Dr. Gao was referring to falling prices, for a second I thought you were going to say falling like the Indian Rafales, but you didn't say that. So I can't take the liberty and say that. Yes. Yes.
Because we are running out of time, I will go asking if Pakistan becomes part of the US broader initiative to reduce China's control over critical minerals. How is China likely to reposition itself in response to such a development? And my question directly goes to Dr. Gao. Thank you.
I thought the question was about the minerals and China's role in that. First of all, I think the United States is talking with multiple countries in the world about rare earth, Myanmar included. Can you believe it? Pakistan included, Ukraine, and China's northern neighbor, Mongolia, many others. It's not a problem. I think the fact of the matter is that sometimes whenever you have the rare earth minerals, you actually send it to China to be processed and to be refined. Rare earth in itself is not rare by any stretch of the imagination. The problem is that rare earth coexists with other minerals. So you need to extract the rare earth part of the mineral from the other minerals, and then you need to process huge amount of other minerals in order to really extract a very tiny amount of rare earth. Then the difficulty really kicks in. You need to refine it into the highest level of fineness before it can really be used on advanced semiconductors, etc. Now the trick is that if you use rare earth materials to build phantom planes, etc., and it is not of the highest quality, your planes, your missiles can be detected by the other side. And don't quote me when I say this, because I'm not an expert on this, but the noise I picked up is that when the B-2 bombers took off in the United States, flying west across the Pacific, and eventually dropped the bomb on Iran, the takeoff, the flight, and whatever it did in the air was picked up by very sophisticated radar. Even the cockpit dialogue between the pilots was picked up. Can you believe it? Now, this means some country, I do not want to name the name, you know what I'm talking about, has the very sophisticated technology. And if you really want to choke China in terms of the semiconductor chips, China will be self-reliant eventually, 3 to 5 years. But then it will take minimum 10 years before the United States can really come up with a real practical roadmap to manufacture and process and refine rare earth to the finest quality. And in a matter of today, 5 years will make or break anything in this world. So that leaves me again back to my conclusion, inevitability of peace. I want to be in eternal peace with people like Mr. Rundy. Everyone in the United States, with all my classmates at Yale Law School, including my alumni, Vice President J.D. Vance, and I do hope he will win the presidential election in 2028 and be the next president in 2029. Therefore, between China and the United States, forget about all these rivalry, etc. China is not a rising power, allow me to mention. China has been in the top echelon for thousands of years. And China will never allow any country after the Opium War to rule above China and to bully China. So from the US perspective, don't call China as a rising power. We have risen again, and again. And look at the comparison between China today and Britain today. I told the British friends, China is not a competitor for Britain. Where do China compete with Britain, except for men's football team? Other than that, where is the competition? No, there is no competition. Britain will be ill-advised to think China as a competitor or a rival or an enemy. No way. China is not competing with Britain. China is thinking about landing the persons on the moon ahead of anyone else. And China is really very broadly minded. And China wants to embrace everyone in the world as an equal rather than to dominate above you. That is the China, and that is the resilience of China. When you think about China marching over 5,000 years to today. And I can tell you, I am a typical descendant of the Chinese civilization. And I want to keep marching forward into the future for another 5,000 years. By then, where is Great Britain? I do not know. You know, the British Prime Minister was an Indian-born, distinguished Prime Minister. And the Mayor of New York is a Muslim American born somewhere in Africa, all right? So I would say, when we look at today, don't be seized up with today. Always think about the historical depth. And when we look at today, never only think about today, forecast into the future. And in the Chinese term, we look back, minimum 5,000 years, and we look forward in another 5,000 years. I will dare to say there are no other nations in the world which can bring onto the table that historical perspective in terms of time and that historical projection into the future. Therefore, deal with China as an equal. That's the minimum thing you can do. Don't rule above China. Don't try to bully China. Don't try to push China around. And China will never do this to you. China just wants to be your equal. That's the minimum bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you.